And we're back for another episode of Bull Banter. The Matildas doing Australia proud, beating England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales, Team Great Britain 4-3. I'm on board here with Daniel to take us through everything, as well as some...
As always.
Thanks for interrupting.
Yeah.
How are you, Dan?
Mate, I'm buzzing. I couldn't wait to interrupt you, mate. Just excited to talk about it, Get a bit of positivity going. But yeah, fucking what a cracker game.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about this match? We looked a little shaky in the group. We didn't necessarily cover the USA game in any great detail because it looked like both teams just settled for a draw. They knew they could get through the group if they both got a point out of it. And so, especially in the later part of the second half, it was just forward, passes to center. Center holds it. Yeah, so imitating the Simpsons parody of soccer there, but the girls did enough to get through, and then they turned it on against Great Britain. But they didn't have it all their own way. Take us through the match, Dan.
Yeah. What were we talking about first? The USA one or this one?
No, Team Great Britain.
Team Great Britain. Yeah, like they came out firing, and if it wasn't for Tegan Micah, like different story. She channeled her, inner Federici there. Was making some absolutely cracking saves. Plenty of the, we call them the Federicis, where you make a cracking save and then it's pulled back for offside. She made a few of those as well. So it's just a top draw performance, but she kept us in it. Great Britain were unlucky. Like early on, they hit the post quite a few times.
Yeah, I know. We came out fairly strong in the first 5-10, and then Great Britain just, got into their groove really. And it's a theme of the Matildas play is that we have no midfield. We had five at the back. Gustafsson went instead of four at the back. He slotted Carpenter in to sort of right centre back. Was able to pull Ivy Lewick on to wing back, and we looked a lot more solid defensively. I know they created a lot of chances, but there wasn't that so clear opportunities that we're sort of letting through in previous matches. But it meant that even more so than usual, we had no midfield. So Van Egmond especially was sort of deprived of the ball. And it's really looks like Gustafsson's just set us up to be, okay, get the ball out of defence, get it wide to a wing back who can swing in a lofted through ball or a cross for Sam Kerr. And, fair enough, it pays dividends. Whenever it's actually got to her head, she's pretty much scored. But in saying that, it doesn't always work. And against a team like Sweden, who we're going to end up facing in the semis, it might not work so well.
And we saw it against Sweden in the first game as well as this game. The fact that the midfield presence isn't there and we just sort of sit back deep, it just invites those long shots. And we've seen a handful of, speculative attempts from outside the box that are hitting the crossbar, hitting the post. And we've been lucky not to, get burnt by them.
Yeah, the girls have really been riding their luck in that regard, but
they just bang them from 40 yards against us and almost put it top bins.
Yeah, I personally don't think the way that Gustafsson sets us up brings out the best in our girls, but it's the way they
play to your strengths. You got to play to your strengths, which is what he's doing, I think. Just focus, make sure, even though it's a bit shaky at times, just make sure that the defense is as solid as it can be. And then, the faster you get the ball up to, Sam Kerr and, the other, talent we have up top in dangerous areas, then can just hit the counter and it's working.
It does pay dividends for us a bit, but I don't know. I think we invite pressure on ourselves, especially when we're trying to hold a lead. You'll notice that the girls play their best when they're really chasing a lead or chasing a goal. They're hungrier. They're more, putting their body about. Whereas when we're trying to conserve a lead, I think we do invite that pressure. I mean, look at all the corners we conceded, right? Every time we line up for a corner, the way Gustafsson has us arranged is it's not necessarily marking, man marking or woman marking in this case. It's zonal marking. So he's got literally everyone he can in the 6-yard box, which I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. Maybe he doesn't trust Tegan Micah or Lydia Williams whenever she's playing to come out and claim. So he has to stack the 6-yard box. But what it basically does is it allows us to deal with the first ball in pretty well. Like we got a lot of tall timber at the back, especially Claire Polkinghorn and Rosemeadow local Alana Kennedy, who had a cracker of her game, by the way. But we deal with the first ball. We're able to push out of that 6-yard box because either it's swung in and we got bodies there and it's in the 6-yard box, or the keeper can claim, or it's just outside the 6-yard and the girls can run out and just all go for the ball. But we got undone in the second phase where, it might bounce out off one of our heads clear. And then that second cross that gets swung in once the girls try and push up and out of the box is, it leaves a lot of runners in behind, which, White for Great Britain was able to score 3 goals basically in identical fashion.
Yeah. And thankfully she didn't score any more, but, we were resilient, and I suppose it was a good thing that, down 2-1, because we just kept fighting. And then obviously, we kind of snatched one at the end there, bit of a iconic moment in the 90th minute at the depth.
Let's go through the goals one by one, because there was a lot of magic in this match. Alana Kennedy rising above the rest off a corner that was well worked by the Aussies to not at home, and she's an absolute weapon in the air. She's towering above the rest, and then she's got the leap. She knows where to put herself, and she's rarely sort of caught out of position in defense, especially with those aerial duels. So massive asset, and really proud moment for her, especially because at the start of the tournament she wasn't a starter, but she's really proven her worth. Her distribution from the back's been top class as well. So when we do have that bit of possession, she's able to find a player in midfield where we're usually outnumbered. So credit to her. Great Britain equalise.
England.
With a nice looping header where White basically drifted in between Carpenter and Alana Kennedy. I think the girls kind of got their communication wrong a bit there. I don't know that I like Ellie Carpenter necessarily in centre back. She's a little bit short. She's decent in the air, but she has much more of a build for a right back, and I think you get more out of her if she's able to parade up and down the right side. But in saying that, pretty solid still. Tegan Micah obviously had to come up with a few saves, and then it's 1-1 going into the break. Sorry, 1-0 at the break, and then just after the break they get the equaliser. And then England get that second goal, and we're thinking it's fairly late on, about the 70th minute. We're thinking, oh no, it's happened again. We copped a pretty scrappy one. It was just off a throw. I think it was Tamika Yallop or Steph Catley, who didn't deal with it in the 6-yard box and just took a bad touch, and it's deflected off Alana Kennedy, who was sort of jumping out of the way. It's fallen at the feet of White, and she could just do nothing else but dispatch it. But the girls really, rose from that point. They really got themselves into the game again, and were looking very, very dangerous. Caitlin Ford hit the post off a deflection. Kerr was, looking dangerous as ever and hungry into the game, and she was rewarded just before the 90th minute. Kennedy got forward. Yallop was, had the ball at the back, and it was Van Egmond swung the ball in. Kennedy rose and sort of attracted the central midfielder that was dropping back, and Kerr had a lot of space. So with that finish, I mean, we have to talk through it because it was a brilliant piece of composure.
The ball just falls out of the sky,
falls out of the sky, takes it down beautifully on her chest, and it was like that 1 second that it took for her to actually adjust and then just wait and then shoot. It felt like a whole minute had passed. Everything was slow motion. The Great Britain players, for some reason, weren't closing her down. They were very off her, and she had the presence of mind to not panic, because usually you get the ball in the box around, the penalty spot. It's just a, shoot as quick as you can. But she had the presence of mind just to look up and go, oh, wait, I can pick my spot here. And she slotted it through the legs of the Great Britain defender.
Yeah, just fucking pure instinct. Just knows her space to a T. And
Yeah, she knows how to find the net.
Yeah, buries it.
And then, that sends us into extra time, and we're on top. We've got the momentum. Some positive play, especially like off the kickoffs. And Brenton Speed mentioned this in commentary. Like, we were just so heavy pressing, and it nearly led to goals at the very start of the match, in the second half, and even in extra time. Off the kickoffs, we were just putting Great Britain under so much pressure. And, we carried that momentum on, and within 5 minutes of extra time, it told, because Mary Fowler brought it down after a bit of a, weird one where it deflected off a midfielder. She brought it down out of the sky on the turn with the outside of her foot, like brilliant touch. And then it just sat up nicely for her, and everyone's thinking, you got to hit this. And, she bought a ticket and she won the lottery, didn't she? It took a bit of a deflection, but it was well struck.
So it's one of those like classic Premier League goals where you think someone's just banged one in from 40, but it's just taken a wicked deflection.
Oh, and how could we gloss over this big moment as well? Like, Mary Fowler's goal was fantastic, but in the context of the game, right, it's come just after a very dodgy penalty shout. Paris, who plays for Arsenal in the Women's Super League, she's come on as a sub, and she did a very Raheem Sterling dive where she copped the littlest bit of contact and just screamed, and was able to buy a penalty from the ref. And
that's Gunner's DNA, mate.
Yeah.
Gunner's DNA.
I don't reckon. I think there was so many Manchester City representatives in that Great Britain squad.
In the stands.
Just rubbed off.
The Man City fans are in the stands at the stadium, mate.
There's seven Man City
all the plastic
players
chairs
there. Yeah, so I think it just rubbed off. It just permeated through the squad, the shithousery, and they were able to buy a pen. And I think that's pretty indicative of the tournament as well. Like, there's been a lot of dodgy calls ref-wise in both the women's and men's competitions. Some we've profited from, some we've really been stunned by, and we're very lucky.
For the women's, like, we've been on the wrong end of them, like, majority of the tournament. Like,
I'd say so.
Sam Kerr copped a yellow for the cleanest tackle I've seen all tourney, and just happens to
got the ball in it, man.
Gets the ball on the woman.
Yeah,
cleans her up after the tackle, which is like fine, but like just
not foul play.
It's a bottle job.
Yeah, it's not football. But yeah, Tegan Micah, with the weight of all of Australia's hopes and dreams on her shoulders, she stands up tall, is able to save the penalty from Weir, put pretty much in the same spot that Sam Kerr put her penalty against Sweden, which
she learns from the best, you could say.
Yeah. But no, Tegan Micah, full credit to her. She only played, I think, 5 or 6 games for the Matildas before, and she's just been immense. I mean, this game tells you all you need to know about her, and I think she's definitely secured the gloves from here on out over Lydia Williams. And no shade to Lydia Williams, she's a fantastic keeper, but Micah's just next level. She's only young as well, and I'm sure she's got even a higher ceiling.
Did she start the first game in the tourney, or was
no? Lydia Williams was on against New Zealand, and she did fine, but just had one little shaky moment where the ball went back and kind of let it go past her. And I think Gustafsson just said, "Look, we can't have that." So yeah, Micah got the call up, and she's not looked back since then. She's been fantastic. So yeah, then it's 3-2 after Fowler's excellent strike, and she brings that little bit of flair, that little bit of touch and craft, and she plays for Montpellier in the French Ligue, which is a strong side, just like Ellie Carpenter's Lyon. So she's definitely got the ability there, and she bought the ticket to the lottery, and it paid off. So massive moment for us. It felt like justice. After the penalty that got awarded for basically a dive, like the littlest touch of a hand contact, and she threw herself to the ground. Referee bought it, and Micah comes up big for the save, and moments later we've marched down the field, and Mary Fowler's just put it top bins via a deflection. You thought, this is justice. Yeah,
and that's right as the second half of extra time's about to come in, so it couldn't come at a better time. And then you talked about it earlier, how good we are from, this kickoff routines, and we hit them right off the kickoff, and make it 4-2.
Yeah.
And Sam Kerr again.
Yeah, just a full field movement. Like, that was the best goal I think we've scored all tournament, to be honest. We just moved it nicely up the field, got it out wide, swung it in, and Kerr's, in the right place at the right time. It's just her bread and butter. Doesn't matter as well. Like, she's deceptively good in the air. She's got a bit of the Cahills about her. She just doesn't matter if there's a taller defender. She just ghosts in, gets in there at the right time, and it's just, once it's gone off her head, it's going in the back of the net.
The anticipation is just like second to none.
Yeah, and like the amount of
Always knows
times
what's going
I've seen her score a goal where she's headed it from like 12 yards and it's come just in off the crossbar. Like, that's pinpoint headers. Like, you don't save those.
No.
Incredible. She's a living legend and absolutely deserves to be the captain.
And especially now with that goal, didn't she become the top
joint
Matilda's goal scorer, or joint top?
Joint top. So if she scores one more, hopefully against Sweden. I mean, I'd love her to get a hat trick or something, but one.
Well, she's got 2 more games now, because obviously, even if we can't get past Sweden, there's the 3rd place playoff for a bronze medal there. So no matter what happens, there's 2 games left for us, which is
it's really positive. Good. I think we're a good chance of getting a medal, especially if we can get past Sweden, obviously. Like, and I think we're good for it. I know the girls would have gone through a really grueling 120 minutes. Obviously, playing for that long, it does take it out of you. And maybe Gustafsson started with the 5 at the back, thinking about resting a couple of players, or just managing the minutes, I suppose, and maybe not pushing so hard forward. But I think we're looking pretty good against Sweden. We just got to take our chances. We know we're not going to have the same amount of luck necessarily that we had when Great Britain were really pushing and hit the post a couple of times. They were looking very good in attack, but it's a funny game, football, and hopefully we get some of the justice that we weren't getting earlier in the tournament with the refs' calls, and just generally luck, because at this level you need a little bit of luck to go your way.
Yeah, even though they have some players from Ireland in that Great Britain squad that didn't have the luck of the Irish, did they?
Well, no. And then, of course, we got to talk about it, I suppose, touch on it. Second phase of a corner, like I said, our backline moved up out of the 6-yard box, and Fran Kirby was able to do a nice little dink. Fran Kirby being Sam Kerr's strike partner up at Chelsea. And she was able to find White for her 3rd, and it made it a very nervy last couple of minutes. That's just football, isn't it? Like, you're riding high one moment and you're stressfully watching the next moment. You're going to nearly have a heart attack, but the girls did enough to hang on. Kerr brought a nice free kick up the field, and Micah managed it well. I think, we've become a real mature side. The girls aren't, obviously there's a lot of experience in the side, but the girls aren't just like kick it away and hope. Like, they manage the game well. What I'd like to see though is, when we're playing against Sweden, especially because, like I said, we chase really well, but we don't hold a lead really well. So we've got to try and change it up a little bit, because I know we seek the goal through kicking it long to Kerr, and we either get the corner out of causing havoc in the back, or we get a forward throw, or we get a goal from Kerr. But I'd like to see us hold the ball a bit more, especially if we go up early against Sweden. We need to be able to possess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough ask, because Sweden they got quality all over the pitch.
Yeah.
So
I just worry, because playing for 120 minutes like that, and then if you go into a defensive, like, deep set structure where you can allow the opposition to move you around for 90 minutes, like, there's going to be tired legs, there's going to be mistakes happening, and I just see it sort of going wrong for us if we try and play that way. So we got to take it to them, and moving on a little bit. I suppose this is a pure example of the girls should learn from the Olyroos, because we didn't take it to Egypt, the Olyroos.
No. And it's completely flipped on its head now. We've gone positive to bit negative.
Incredibly negative.
I think just the way we approached this game was dreadful.
Completely
You
wrong.
can't coast at this stage.
No,
Like,
no.
even
We
though the Matildas, like in that game against the USA, sort of did, but the
it was like a
USA were
gentleman's
happy with the
agreement.
draw
There was
as
no
well.
gentleman's
Yeah,
agreement with Egypt.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Like, okay, putting it into context, because I know this result shocked a lot of people.
move back from your mic a bit. It's a bit. Yeah, there you go.
Am I too loud? Am I going
Yeah,
in?
you're good now. You're good now.
Okay.
You can go in now. You can go in now.
Right. Yeah.
Go in hard.
I know it shocked a lot of people that we look at Egypt as like, oh, who are they? You know, they have no recognized names, whatever. But they're under 23 champions for Africa. And that's no small feat. Like,
Yeah.
Africa's got some players.
And the streets, the real ones know Ramadan Sobi from, his time in the Prem.
Yeah.
You can play.
Exactly. So, look, we were expecting to get beat. No. We were expecting a good result. Yeah. But I think Graham Arnold just completely fucked it up. Like, 5 at the back. I didn't mind the formation, but the tactics were wrong, right? And let me explain. So, like, obviously, massive miss for us was Mitch Duke up top just to put the pressure on and win the headers. I think D'Agostino got outplayed. He couldn't really assert his play on the match, and he wasn't a very good outlet for us. We were wasteful in midfield. I think the 90 minutes of getting just dominated by Spain really took it out of the boys. You saw Jeannot and Metcalfe feeling really tired, and Jeannot unfortunately got hooked at halftime. I don't think I would have done that. I think Metcalfe looked a little bit more tired and was giving the ball away a little bit more. But
I think you have to hook one of them after that first half.
Yeah.
So, and like maybe on his day, I think Metcalfe does have a bit more in his locker compared to Jeannot. But in terms of that, deep lying presence that can just sort of, scrappily win the ball or, get those interceptions. Obviously, Jeannot deserves to be there, but
I think
we have to face facts. He didn't have a very good first half either.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I just think it was insanity from Arnold, though, to be like, okay, we've just run around for 90 minutes against Spain with 10% possession. Let's just try and defend this one and get a point and go through against Egypt, who are a very physical side. So we got, I wouldn't say overrun by Egypt, but we just lined up all wrong. We didn't take the game to Egypt. We had our chances for sure. Arzani and Tilio were linking quite well, and we had a couple opportunities here and there, but we really just sat back and invited Egypt onto us in a lot of instances.
Yeah, as soon as that whistle blows, Egypt just go all guns blazing and just have us on the back foot for that entire first half. And we talked about it in the last pod, is Arnold gonna keep that back four? Is he gonna go to the 5 at the back, which we saw later in the second half when he subs on Arzani and everything and tries to actually go for the game. But I think starting our best centre back at right back in Deng, the partnership he had with Sutar was solid.
Yeah, and Deng not an attacking right back either. You even saw back at the days where he was at Melbourne Victory, he wouldn't really get forward and put the crosses in. He was much more conservative. He's not the best ball player. He can pick a pass, but he's not a good dribbler. He's much more of a stopper.
And
so wasn't his position.
Having King at left back, he's not the best attacking fullback either, in my opinion, from what I saw in that game. So it just kills our midfield depth because the fullbacks just can't.
Well, that's exactly right. Forward. That was really our only option. When we did have good possession, we were trying to pass it through midfield, and Egypt were just sticking equal to the task to us. And so the only space we really had to make a forward pass in that final third was from the wing backs. And so Tommy Deng doesn't have the best delivery. Joel King, I think he's been really good this tournament, but you could tell he was tiring as well, and he was up and back all day. I think Kai Rolls had a really good game, just quietly in centre defence. He hasn't featured so much in the tournament, and I think he acquitted himself really well. Yeah. But Suter made the mistake which was kind of uncharacteristic of him. I think he's a really brilliant aerial defender, but you were just waiting for that one really tricky player to sort of tangle him up, and that's exactly what happened with the first goal for Egypt. He just dived in at the wrong moment and got skinned, and there it was. An easy cutback for was it Ramadan who put it in?
I thought Sobe skinned him, and then some other guy put it in. Yeah. But Ramadan comes a few months late.
Off it, mate.
Nah, full of the puns. But yeah, he gets skinned. And apparently they would have played at Stoke together or something.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, it just didn't go well for us, making that one mistake at the back, and it really ruined our plans. Then we had to really go for it, and we weren't really set up in that way, I think.
No.
And then especially after 65 minutes, pulling off, an attacking player in Lockie Wales, and then putting on Rich Bagaloo, who's a central defender, and putting him up top, and just going, okay, let's get a throw in, and let's give it to Nick D'Agostino and play Stoke City rules.
If he's going to do that, I reckon he just chuck Bagaloo at the back and chuck Sutar up top.
Yeah, well, apparently Bagaloo used to play up as a striker, and then got to a club. I forget where he plays, somewhere in the Premier League. I think he's at Southampton or something in the youth side. They said, no, you're not a striker, you're a defender. So, Arnie, I think he really screwed us from there, because when we're chasing a goal, I know we didn't have the greatest options off the bench because Duke's not there. You were missing McGree as well. I think he would have made a real difference in this game. But the tactics had to be different. We need to rearrange, probably even go for it at the back.
I think outside of what we've already mentioned where he's gone wrong, the fact he starts Piraeus, who's at A-League level, he's a quality player on his day. But I don't fault him for, having not his best game here, because he hadn't even come off the bench at all.
He wasn't hot.
He wasn't hot. And then he just chucks him in the deep end, starts him in the deciding match for us to get out of the group.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. And I suppose that was a forced change, but yeah, I think we could have done better.
How's Azani right there? I don't get why you don't start Tilio and Azani. They've been probably two of our best players this tournament in an attacking sense. Just let him get together. And we saw it a few times around the 70th minute mark. Azani was trying his best, playing out of his skin. And they were able to create, some quality chances for us, but they unfortunately fell to King a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Getting forward off that left back who's not going to, bang one in. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of could have beens from this match, but ultimately you just left feeling very, very disappointed. This team could have gone a bit further in this tournament, could have made history getting out of the group in the Olympics for the first time for Australia. But again, we're left disappointed by our men's national team. And I saw a really good point made online. At tournaments, Australia always has that one game where we're like, oh, we're pretty good. Was it drawing with France in the first match of the 2018 World Cup? That time we nearly beat Netherlands in the 2014 World Cup. That's the good match. And, we had Argentina from this one. And then you have the one where it's like, we fought hard, but we just went down. And then, of course, you have the what the fuck moment, which is, Peru in the 2018 World Cup. And then this Egypt one where we just get blown out of the water, completely wrong tactics. Arnold needs to have a good look at himself. And I don't know that he should be sacked necessarily, but I think if you look across his club career, he hasn't really had success really outside the A-League. He went to Japan and failed. Despite what he did with the Central Coast, where they won their only ever premiership, which was good. He brought up a lot of good young players like Trent Sainsbury, Matt Ryan, and relied on expertise of Daniel McBreen. He's really had the players being just of higher quality generally in any other place. When he went to Sydney FC, obviously they got a massive budget. They can attract the better players just purely out of lifestyle, and they've got good facilities, good academy. So, and they're used to that success. They got that winning mentality. So I think Arnold might be a little overrated, and it just shows you like he's probably not fit for modern football. Like if he's throwing a centre back up top, playing Stoke City all age kind of welly it forward and just try and win a header in the box, like it's not how you play.
You get Dazza from the pub, he'd tell you to do that.
Yeah,
it's nothing special. Sometimes like park footy that would work because no one can defend against a 6'8" bloke.
Yeah, but we're at the Olympics, mate. We're against the African under-23 champions. We need
against
something
the
more.
world's
and
best.
The fact that we've run, like he ran out of ideas, and that tells you all you need to know. Like Graham Arnold didn't have a plan B, really, apart from let's just chuck it forward and play aerial dominance. Like these are big lads from Egypt. They're not going to shirk a challenge in the air.
Like I'd understand if it was the 85th minute and he says, "All right, chuck on this bloke." Forgot his name now, Bagaloo.
Yeah,
but he did it in like the 70th minute or something.
Like, and it just ruined our play from there. It was just there was no other route to goal. He just like get it up in the air, which was shit because like Arzani and Tilio were putting together some plays on the ground. Just ruined it. Terrible.
I suppose another talking point is 7 minutes extra time, and God. Egypt were running down the clock every chance they could get. And the
keeper made a save. Hurt my arm.
The keeper makes that first save. I'm on the ground for down. 3 minutes. Gets up. He makes like 4 world-class saves after that. Like it's just
I mean, you can't say we didn't go down without a fight, but fuck me, like
it's masochism for Australian fans, I think.
Yeah, it's ultra frustrating. It's part of, I guess, why a lot of casual viewers might go, "Oh, I fucking hate soccer," because like that is a really terrible part of the game. We should have experience with that though, and like Arnold should know better. We've played through the AFC. Like every team that gets up against us knows what a threat we are, and just goes, "Oh, I'm going to lay down for a bit. I'm going to get the stretcher out. I'm going to, stretch on the sideline for half a second and then go, yeah, I'm good again." And then as soon as there's a foul, even a throw in, like they're just going to go down injured. So we had to be smarter and, playing the set piece, basically tactic of let's try and get it forward and do these big throw-ins. Every single time there was a stoppage, they're going down and the ref has to check it out because it's, an injury potentially. I really hate that the refs don't punish that sort of time wasting, but what can you do?
Honestly,
it's Olympic refs.
I was happy it was 7 minutes, but it could have been like Fergie time, like 10 or 11 minutes, know? But
very annoying, very frustrating way to go out. When you know that if they'd played a little bit differently, things would have been maybe more positive and gone a bit differently for us. I don't think Egypt really had the tools to unlock us at the back. I think obviously the second goal we were just pushing forward, and we copped a goal late because of that. But apart from one ill-fated decision from Sutar to dive in when he shouldn't have, I think we were pretty steady on the night defensively anyway.
Plus, I think that first goal as well, Deng was kind of is caught a little bit too high. I think the one time he decides to get a little bit more forward, he gets caught out, and then he's a little bit slow to sort of track back, like whether or not that was just the amount of minutes he's had at this tourney under pressure, like sort of waning on him. But he was like tucking in behind Sutar as Sutar jumps out at Sobi, but then he just couldn't get there in time. And then Sobi does what he does. So bit of I wouldn't put it all on Sutar, obviously, but just
I mean,
bittersweet.
It is. I mean, especially after the optimism of the first match against Argentina, you're thinking, "Oh, like we could be on here. We've made the perfect start." But it just wasn't to be, and it's just part of the ups and downs of being a football fan in Australia, I suppose. One day we'll have the soccer gods smiling on us, but it wasn't to be this time. Hopefully, the girls. The Matildas can do us proud and get a medal at least, if not a gold.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
But let's turn our attention to some domestic matters. We've heard news of a potential transfer for Danny Jonro which would be a huge loss for Macarthur FC. He's such a tidy, intelligent player for us. And you saw over the course of the last 12 months, having to mop up for Banyat most of the time. He's added so much grit to his game. He's got a lot of, features of his game that you really admire. And he'd be a huge gap in midfield if we lose him. He's attracted interest from French League 2 side Toulouse FC. They're regularly a feature in French Ligue 1, which is the top tier.
Yeah,
they're looking to go back up. Yeah. And just to add a little bit of reasoning behind this deal, there's a few factors that really make sense for why it would occur. So Jeannot was born in Paris. He's got French parents, and they moved to Adelaide when he was little, or Melbourne, sorry, one of the two. But yeah, French passport, so that makes it very easy for him to slot in because he wouldn't occupy a international slot. The French broadcast deal was like diminished. Like I know we had a lot of talk around our broadcast deal, and we've ended up going with Paramount Plus, and it looks like a better deal than the Fox Sports one. But in France, I don't know the particulars of it, but I know there's a lot of clubs that are looking to offload players because their wage bills are too high and the broadcast deal is less than they expected. So it makes sense for them to come and grab someone like Jeannot, who wouldn't be, topping out the wage bill by any stretch. He's valued at the moment on transfer market as being worth 500,000 euros. But I don't know with our lack of a transfer system in Australia if that would be able to be paid through, or it'd have to be done through a third party. I'm not sure of the particulars there, but it's a big opportunity for Denny. Obviously, for any young player in Australia, it's a bit of a dream to be able to play in Europe, and there's a lot of sense that it makes. Being that he's of French heritage, he already speaks French. We saw a few interactions with him and Puyo throughout the season, and Kamari is his agent, and they've got a lot of French League One players on their books, representing a lot of French players there. So it makes sense. They've even got Thomas Lamar on their books for
Athletic.
Yeah. So, look, I think there's a lot of potential in this move, but as a Bulls fan, it's quite devastating. You would have hoped at least Denny would stick around for another season after signing a 3-year contract to start with the club.
Especially when, we're making all these cracker signings, it'll obviously be a big loss because, sort of the heart of the midfield now with Banyak gone. But, I'll be happy for him because that chance to go abroad to Europe doesn't pop up,
if he doesn't take it now, he might sort of miss his window because he's still a young player. He's only...
and he's come off a good tournament as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think his real estate is going to be as high now as it's ever going to be from staying in the A-League. He's not going to get elevated again or even more by the A-League.
I think he has to take this move. I mean, he's 22 years old. When you get to like 23, 24, they kind of see you as like capping out your potential or being the player you should be. Not that players can't improve after their mid-20s or whatever, but they kind of look at you as, you're the complete product as what you're going to be now. Like you're reaching your ceiling kind of thing. So I think he has to take this move. Big opportunity for him, especially if he plays well this season and the next year. Toulouse, if they get promoted up, he could springboard his career into other leagues. I mean, France is now definitely a top 5 league in Europe. So
as much as people like to call it a farmers league.
Yeah. But no, it'll be much more competitive as well. I know PSG have all the money in the world, but they have to get a few players off their books due to the broadcast thing and just the financial fair play rules in the French league. Lille won it last year, and there's going to be a lot of movement in that league. So I think Danny has a good opportunity to sort of to strut his stuff. And, it'll be bittersweet seeing him go, but there's positivity as well. Like we might get to see a bit more of Mambois and Holman in that central midfield role, or even pushed up the pitch, and you might have someone drop back, to support that Jordan Much in the center of midfield. So yeah, obviously that's just part and parcel of being a supporter of the A-League, isn't it? You love the young players when they're playing extremely well, but then they attract that overseas interest, and it's often too tempting for them to pass up.
I think it's just a reminder that when you have a good thing, you gotta cherish it while it's there.
Yeah.
Because just like that, like everything can change.
Yeah.
We thought Derby, we were loving Derbyshire, and it kind of blindsided the fans that he's gone to the Greece league or
Cypriot.
wherever he's
He's back at Cyprus at Larnaca.
Yeah, you got to cherish it while it's here,
Yeah.
Because 11 goals, 14 goal contributions just down the drain like that. Big shoes to fill.
Lots to replace. And there is a lot of turnover in the A-League. You kind of expect it, but I don't know, you just think of some players as being, part of the fabric of your club. We've kind of built the entire midfield around letting Jeannot develop. So for him to go would leave a massive gap. And he's one of the nicest blokes you'll see on a football field. So well spoken, great ambassador for our club, and just a good young bloke. And we wish him all the best if he does end up going to Toulouse. I'll certainly be checking in BN Sport to see how Toulouse are going. So but that's football. That's where we are in the football pyramid in Australia.
And we should talk about this football pyramid as well, because
what a segue.
Gone under a little bit of change. Obviously, the new A-League season commencing October 30th. Gladys is doing her best to make sure that doesn't happen, but
Gladys just wants to make sure that Cursor remains the sickest person in Sydney.
Mate, that was worse than my jokes.
No, mate, that's Batuta. That's not me.
Yeah.
But no, the domestic match calendar, it's looking pretty interesting, right? So they've aligned it so it actually runs for over a 12-month period between all the different leagues. Now, the biggest sort of news to come out of this is obviously A-League kicks off 30th of October, and that'll run through. And then at the very end of the season, you've got the FFA Cup, which is a nice way to sort of wind it up because, NPL is coming off the end of their season. It's sort of going into pre-season for A-League. So you've got a good level of competition there. Makes it pretty fair between semi-professional and professional sides. But massive news is the FA have put forward a placeholder basically in the domestic match calendar for a second division. Now, we don't know what sides that will comprise of. I'd imagine that some of the best NPL sides would step up into that league. We don't know the composition of how many teams they want in that league, but we do know it's going to run from January to May, right? So inclusive of those months. So it's a 5-month league, not the biggest, league in the world. And, obviously you'd want to extend that time period out a little bit, but it gives a bit of scope between the A-League, which is running in summer, and NPL, which runs mainly over winter. And I don't think it'll happen this year necessarily. I think there'll be discussions around the feasibility of that league, because obviously you have to travel to make it a national league. And we know the NPL sides aren't necessarily flush with cash. All you have to look at is the troubles that Sydney Olympic ran into recently with money laundering, and you'll know what we mean. So it's a bit tricky, but I think, clubs like Wollongong Wolves, for instance, could be involved in that. Brisbane Lions would be involved.
Doesn't Canberra have a decent team as well or something?
Canberra, I think they want to be in the A-League for the next expansion, but I'd much rather see us get to 14 sides in the A-League, so maybe introduce one more, but then the likes of a Tasmania or any other sort of expansion side that wants to jump in there, as well as the NPL, as long as they got the funding and can really, they have to have a place to play as well. We can't have another Western United Wanderers situation. But it's very interesting. It brings up a lot of questions and a lot of positivity towards national second division coming sooner than we maybe thought.
Yeah, because in one of the earlier podcasts in the year, we were theorizing maybe 5 years time, but within 3 or 2 even, we might see that become a reality, which is it's a great time to be a supporter of Australian football, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's
So yeah,
pretty cool as well. And another thing from that, they've got the FIFA windows. Finally, you're not going to have players missing out on A-League games because they have to go and play for the Socceroos, which is pretty huge.
yeah,
I know,
and
like Jamie McLaren, for instance, missed out on playing for Melbourne City in the grand final after like just carrying them to that grand final. I know there's plenty of great Melbourne City players, but bossed the league, scored over 20 goals for the Golden Boot, like, and it's just disappointing, for their fans that they weren't able to see him represent the side in the grand final. So we won't have any of that nonsense anymore. And we've also got transfer windows now. Again, this is kind of a placeholder at the moment, and I think there'll be more development on this part, but we actually have transfer windows. So it's not like a team can just go out and say, oh, we've poached this player from that team, because at the moment we don't really have designated transfer windows. We just have the ability to go speak to a player and go, oh, once your contract's up, why don't you sign with us? And you have a lot of players get released so they can move to another team because we don't have a transfer system here in Australia yet. But with the implementation of FIFA transfer windows, you'd imagine there's going to be a lot more of an interesting kind of dynamic where it's not just coming out of the blue, but there's lots of, maybe turnover or signings happening all at once, which will make that little off season a bit nicer. There'll be a mid-season transfer window as well. And then you'd imagine over the next 6 to 12 months, they'll unveil a domestic transfer system, which means that clubs will actually be able to benefit off the players they produce. Because right now, I don't know, unless it's a third party kind of, behind closed doors payment, the clubs aren't getting a transfer fee. In fact, apart from Adelaide United, I don't know how they did it, but the biggest transfer fee that I'm aware of anyway in the A-League was Riley McGree going to, what's that new side he's at? It's like I think it's Miami FC or something like that. And then he got loaned to Birmingham. So for $1 million, and Adelaide has been able to put that money back into development of their youth. So that'd be a really good thing if all clubs can have access to that. We wouldn't have situations like Denny Genro, for instance. If he goes, we might not get his €500,000 transfer fee that he would demand if he went to another club from a club in Europe, for instance.
Yeah, and imagine if we can just use that money like you normally expect and reinvest it into the squad, get us a couple more good players for that kind of money.
It'd be massive for the whole league because, not just for MacArthur, but if you are producing young players, you can then sell them on. You have that money to go into the war chest to just improve the quality of players on your side. And then
there's a bit more
as the years go on,
so.
Yeah, exactly. Incentive. As the years go on, we will see a massive improvement in the quality of the league and also the quality of facilities. Like you could sell quite a few players over a few seasons and then have enough to do like renovations on your stadium, for instance, which is what I kind of potentially see happening at Campbelltown, especially once we start getting the good crowds in.
And then obviously the talent pool that Melbourne City has at their disposal, the amount of up and coming young players in the A-League that have sort of had their roots in that, Melbourne City Academy, obviously more often than not they've benefited from it. But
I mean, you'd have to say it's a good thing for the league as a whole, because I know when the City Group ended up buying Melbourne Heart, everyone was saying, oh, they're just going to buy the league. They're going to bring in whatever player they want. And I guess for the moment with the salary cap system that we have, they had to go a different way about it. So what they did was they've invested so much into youth development and now it's paying dividends after a few, 5 years basically of developing these players. Denny Genro went through that system. You got Tilio, Kolikovsky who've come through, Atkinson as well. And McGree was there for a bit as well. So yeah, it's massive. And I guess if we can export that model to every other club in the A-League, you'll have a very strong league in 5 years or so.
Yeah, and another thing I thought was interesting is that first transfer window sort of ends before the season even starts, where you look at the Premier League, there's about 3 or 4 rounds before that transfer window closes.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if teams will get caught out just because the transfer window's closed and, they've realized too late on, like, oh, we need a bit more depth, or oh, we need this type of player in the squad.
Well,
So it might
I think
catch a lot of teams out.
I think it'll be good though, because like they're not going to be sleeping on it. They're not going to be like, oh shit, we missed deadline day. They'll be aware of it,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be a good thing because in the off season we'll have more to talk about. There'll be more players that are getting signed and like sealed away, and you won't have that heartbreaking moment where it's like a day before the first game of the season or even into the season, and you go, oh, this player who I thought we were going to have for the whole season has just jumped ship. It'll create a bit more loyalty to clubs, hopefully as well, and it'll benefit the clubs who get their business done early. So. Plenty to like about this development for the match calendar, and hopefully they, implement more changes as the year goes on. Because with James Johnson at the helm of the FFA, I think there's a lot to like about the direction Australian football's heading in.
And another last thing before we sort of end up as well, in terms of having a salary cap, how do you think they approach that? Because I think for the first few years they should probably keep it, but obviously increase the amount teams can spend.
I think the salary cap.
I'd love to see it go in the long term. But
me too. I think the salary cap should stay, but sort of be increased, proportionate to the amount of income that clubs are getting. I think if you allow a transfer system, then obviously that club will want to increase the type of player they're bringing in, and maybe be able to attract some more international names, as well as implement or introduce younger players from the academy. Eventually, maybe in 10 years' time, when our league's really functioning strongly, we can maybe afford to get rid of it. But I think before all that happens, you have to have a national second division, and I guess to make that somewhat competitive. So when a team comes up, hopefully from promotion and relegation, they're not just like a bunch of tradies who play on the weekend against international stars. You need to have a bit of balance in our league, so that when the national second division happens and there's promotion and relegation, that it's not, a case of just a side jumping up for one season and getting hammered all season and going back down. Because I could see that happening if they get rid of salary cap.
Because you see at the moment with like the NPL, like a lot of teams will just sort of hoard their youth there. Like we saw it throughout the season with the amount of youth players we have. Mm-hmm. And it's just making sure that the level between that second division and the A-League is still like somewhat comparable. Because like you've got, like, I think Michael Roos is an A-League level player, but then you go to the NPL and he's just bullying people.
Yeah, he scores braces like it's nothing. Like, exactly.
Yeah. To his credit, he's still bullying people in the A-League, but he's not scoring braces,
So it's a bit of a tricky one. I think when the national second division does come in, you've got to keep it like no promotion and relegation for probably at least 10 years to get that quality up to a certain level. Because right now, if you took an NPL side and said jump into the A-League lads, they get monstered. Like, it'd be a travesty. You'd have I don't think some of these teams who are in the NPL 1 would necessarily even win games, across the whole season. That's just such the gap, and you see upsets in the FFA Cup or whatever, but that's one. And usually, I mean, especially in pre-season for A-League sides aren't necessarily fully preparing for FFA Cup, or they're not using their top side. They're usually blooding youngsters and whatever. So there's a lot of time that needs to go into this national second division before we can see that promotion relegation come through, I think. But plenty of positive signs. It's finally moving in that direction that we want it to move, and it's only a positive for the game. So, well done to the FFA, and hopefully it's a sign of a bright future for Australian football.
Yeah, and then who knows, maybe in 2 or 3 Olympics times we'll be walking home with a Ollie Roos medal. Yeah, instead of the Matildas carrying us,
Or even just, get out of the group in a World Cup for once.
Oh, yeah, mate. We just need, I think we need a partner with like a different federation that's a bit weaker. I don't know if another weaker one exists other than Asia Oceania, where we can, not match up in the group of death every time we have a tournament. But
it's just poor luck. But no, I think Asia's the right place to be. It's a good level of competitiveness.
We just start our own one with Australia, New Zealand, and then one of us qualifies.
one of us goes to. Nah, that'd be
Yeah.
so shit. We'd have no like competition.
Knowing
I mean,
that, New Zealand would probably go to the tourney.
yeah, you're right. No, I like. I mean, obviously,
No,
we don't like traveling all the way to Uzbekistan and all that all the time. But I think the variety of opponents you get in Asia is pretty unmatched.
yeah,
I mean,
it's good.
we can't just go to Europe, you know.
No,
So
Brexit. No.
Brexit means Brexit, and we'll be Brexiting this podcast now. So thank you guys for listening to Bull Banter. We'll be back on board in a couple of days' time, hopefully singing the praises of the Matildas again and willing them into a Olympic final.
On you girls.
Let's
Bring it home.
Thanks for listening. Catch you guys later.